I had a lot of resentment. I felt like when I married Jamie, I thought I knew, right? We all think we know what that was gonna look like. And then 9/11 happened, and of course, I was willing to say, yeah, of course, you feel led to do this. I love you, I love my country. Yes, we'll do this. But I think I didn't, and maybe none of us could have understood that it would still be going on. I just oftentimes will say it's like this hamster wheel of deployment. And I felt like he was deployed and then he was home a year and training to get ready to be deployed again. And it's like you can't ever get off the treadmill. And I felt, for me, a lot of resentment. Like, wait, I want this to stop now. Like, I want this war to stop. When is this gonna stop? And, the answer to that is, no one knows.
I can smile to satisfy my pride.
My name is Amy Uptgraft, and I wrote I Will Wait. I have a degree from Purdue University, and I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in theater performance. And so once I graduated from college, I moved right back to New York City, just doing the whole starving actor thing, auditioning, nannying to try to make money. So I met my husband actually in high school. And then once I was in the city, he was finishing college up at West Point, up the Hudson. So we got engaged and got married about 2 years after all that. Did not grow up in a military family at all. Like, no interest in the military, didn't know anything about the military. So we had kind of agreed that we would get married, and when his 5 years were up, he would get out and we would maybe move back to the city or move out to California. And so then when 9/11 happened,
this just in, you were looking at,
he was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas at the time, and he just said, I'm not getting out of the Army now, right? And I said, yeah, I know.
I run the vacuum, clean the carpet, chase the dust from the corner. I run the errand.
He deployed for the first time in 2003. We had 6-month-old twins. He deployed again in 2006, then again in 2010, again in 2012, and then he's deployed right now. I think at some point, it was, for me, the 2012 deployment that I just had a really hard time. I sometimes say I had like a nervous breakdown, and it wasn't quite that extreme, but I just had a lot of resentment and anger and frustration, and I felt like, how did we get here? How did a decade pass and now you've deployed 4 times, and we now have 4 kids that I'm raising by myself? And it brought up a lot of things for me. Things that I felt guilty feeling, and I felt like, I wasn't a supportive wife, or I wasn't a supportive Army wife. I wasn't all those things because I just felt a lot of resentment and frustration, and this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I started to see a therapist, and she had suggested starting a journal and writing in a journal. And with my theater background, I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a play. And I met with Greg Stieber, who wrote the play with me. He and I co-wrote the play, and he kind of helped give me the courage to step out. And so the play became my therapy. It absolutely healed me.
Feel free to take a step. Sitting in a bar one night over a couple of beers, that's where this whole thing came from. She and I just talking about, we were catching up on our lives.
Oh,
You guys says anything? By the time we left that night, we had the idea kind of hashed out, and we decided to proceed the next day. We met with the theater the next morning, and the ball started rolling from there.
I interviewed spouses in Indiana, I did phone interviews, I interviewed spouses in Colorado where I was living at the time, and we just kind of took elements of a lot of those stories and then put them together into the 5 scenes that make up the play itself.
I write him every day.
Once we put a band in place and a full cast and an audience, I think we all realized that we had something really special. Really moving for the people who were involved in the production, really moving for the people who saw the production, moving for military people who felt like, I want to think we really did them justice in sharing their stories. And then also, the part that I think I'm most proud of is really moving for civilian audiences. It premiered, and then about 6 months later, Jamie, my husband, got orders to be stationed up here at J. Bear. I just burst into tears. Like, I spent 3 weeks just sobbing because I felt like, one, I had to move to Alaska, which seemed terrifying. But also, I think for me, I just felt like, well, the play has run its course. So we moved up here, and I just kind of felt like, well, we'll just see what happens with it. And then I moved next door to Wendy Caldwell.
At the edge of her driveway, I said, so what do you do? And she said, well, I write plays, and I'm a theater person, and I lived in New York for a while. I'm like, hey, I grew up outside of New York City, and I use art as therapy. And she was like, oh, well, tell me more about that. She told me about I Will Wait, and I immediately thought, what a beautiful thing it would be to couple a workshop with I Will Wait, so that people who are having an emotional response to the play can have some place to voice these emotions. And that's where Made for You came from, and it's been a labor of love for almost 2 years now.
There are possibilities anywhere, everywhere, if you're willing to look and engage your community and talk to the people to your right and your left. And she literally was to my left. I mean, we literally, at the end of our driveways one day, 2 summers ago, kind of said, hey, we should try this. And to know that 2 years later, we're at a place where it's bigger than I could have ever dreamed it could be.
What she has done, and with the aid of Leah and Stephanie and these other people I'm meeting right here in Anchorage, they've made it now what we called it from the beginning, the Veteran Spouse Project. It is now a project where it's now providing a voice in different forms of art.
There was no news coverage other than Walter Cronkite and his nightly body count.
So I want spouses,
There would be a
I think,
body
to feel like their stories are being heard. There's a few lines in the play that talk about, like, you know, while everyone's shining their American flag pins and waving, you know, making their welcome home banners, a lot of us are cracking from the inside out. I hope that spouses see the play and that the military counterpart sees the play and just can recognize that, you know, we all do this together. I would never ever take away from the hard work that my husband does and the things he's had to endure and go through, ever. But that as a spouse, I'm the one that welcomes him back home. I'm the one that helps him readjust to what life looks like. I'm the one that works to keep that bond between he and our kids. And essentially the spouse is the glue that kind of holds all that family unit together.
It is a special experience to be a military spouse, but so many of us might feel isolated. We might feel like we don't want to say anything about what we're going through. And I think this project brings front and center the fact that we need to support each other, and it is okay to have some negative feelings that come up, not just for deployment, but the challenges that come with the military lifestyle.
Here, but tomorrow you're gone. One more day without you in my
I hope to see I Will Wait go into communities around the country, wherever that may be. If that's Washington, D.C., if that's San Diego, if that's Denver, Colorado, whatever that looks like. I would love to see it go into communities and continue just to share the story of, right now it's spouses, but there's also stories of moms and dads and, you know, children, and give them a platform to feel like, hey, here's what happened while my dad or my mom was gone, or here's how I feel about it, and give them a place where they feel like they can stand and be proud and speak openly and honestly. We're a proud military family. I'm so proud of his service. I'm so proud of his commitment. But sometimes you just need to be able to say, this is hard. And this is not what I thought it was going to be. And I felt like for me, I just needed to say, hey, does anyone else think this is hard? Are we all just feeling like, oh no, we got this, no problem. Oh, like, no. and as I talked to more and more spouses, I realized, oh, everybody feels this way. It's just nobody really wants to say it. I mean, these are some of the most resilient, smart, caring, compassionate people you'll ever meet in your life. And we're all far away from home. Nobody has a grandma to help. And we really know how to bond together. And so I would just always encourage young military spouses to go and find your people, like find your tribe. It's hard work and you'll do it, and then 3 years later you'll have to move and it'll feel devastating. You have to start all over again, but it's worth the investment. It's worth it.